Okay, guys, so going back, to the numerical aperture, when it comes to the value, okay, 0.25, so we correlate this. The higher the resolving power, the lower the value of the numerical aperture, okay? So I hope that is clear, guys. The higher the value or the resolving power, the lower the numerical aperture, okay? And as you can see, as the magnification increases, we try to correlate them. Okay? So, again, mahihilo. As the magnification increases, okay, the resolving power decreases. Okay? So, the lower is the magnification, the higher the resolving power is. So, I hope that is clear. The lower the numerical aperture, okay, so the higher the resolving power. Aside from that, as the magnification of the objective increases, the working distance decreases. Okay? So habang minamagnify mo yung object, lumiliit ng lumiliit yung working distance mo. Nakukuha? So as you increase your magnification, you lower the working distance that is available. Okay? So I hope that is clear, guys. So we proceed. There are two kinds of microscope, the light and the electron. Which is more advanced, guys? Is it the light or the electron? Okay, so from their names alone. That is the electron because it can view up to 100,000 times. Okay? Siguro, pwede mo nang makita yung crush mo kahit nasa Manila siya. Char. Okay, so in electron microscope, you can see the details of a cell. You can see its organelles, you can see its nucleus, okay, the lysosomes, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and the other parts of the cell. Because it can magnify up to 100,000 nga, di ba? Or more than. Okay? So we have two types of the light microscope, the simple and the compound. Okay? So, medyo nawawala to. The simple and the compound. So, the simple microscope, that is one that makes use of a single convex lens and has a limited capacity of magnifying an object, while for a compound microscope, it makes use of, what is this? It makes use of dual lens. Okay? So, and the objective lens. Okay, so it can also offer us a higher magnification. So we have here, okay, let's magnify. Char. Okay, let's enlarge because we are not using a microscope. Okay, so this is the simple microscope. Okay, so for the simple microscope, it is a lot harder to use. It is a lot harder, okay, to utilize this kind of microscope kasi hahanap ka pa ng ilaw. Okay, because the light must come from the environment. Okay, so it will reflect light here so that you can view your sample or your intended sample that is placed in this stage. Okay? So magkakaroon ng tawag doon, ng light. It will utilize light from the environment and ire-reflect niya dito. Okay? Unlike for the compound microscope, okay? So that is electric. Okay? The light, there is already a built-in light, but that should be it is lighted when there is an electricity. Okay? So, kailangan mo pa rin dyan ng kuryente. Aside from that, it offers a higher magnification. Okay? Higher magnification. So, that is for the simple and the compound microscope. Okay? So, we have here kinds of compound microscope. The bright field phase contrast and differential interference contrast microscope, as well as the dark field microscope. Okay? So, for the bright field microscope, okay, bright field microscope, the light shines directly from behind the specimen, and the contrast of image should be dependent on how light is scattered through the specimen. So, what we have in our laboratories are bright field microscope. Okay? So, yung mga nakikita yung Olympus in the Medtech lab, those are bright field microscope. For the phase contrast microscope, it works by having an opaque ring in the objective lens and condenser of the microscope. Take note, guys. Okay, the phase contrast microscope is the recommended microscope for urine sediment. Okay, for urine sediment or living organism. Okay, if you want to, that is the recommended. Of course, you can see the urine sediment as well as living organism through the bright field microscope. But the phase contrast microscope is the one that is recommended for urine sediment. Okay, differential interference contrast microscope. So it makes use of a pair of prisms instead of opaque rings. Image form is 3D, three-dimensional. Okay, so these are advanced type of compound microscope, and definitely we don't have them in our laboratory because these are very expensive. Even for the dark field and the fluorescence microscope, these are used for research purposes. Okay, that's why they are expensive. That's why we don't find them in our medtech laboratory. The dark field microscope package a dark field. It makes use of special condenser lens that lets the light go through the specimen but not through the objective lens. Therefore, the background is dark. Kaya siya tinatawag na dark field microscopy. The background that it offers is dark. So this is utilized for spirochetes. What are example of spirochetes, or what is an example of spirochete? The Treponema pallidum. So those are the Treponema pallidum is a spirochete, and is it a bacteria, a parasite, or a virus, guys? That is a bacteria. Okay, so that is a bacteria. And what is the sexually transmitted infection that the Treponema pallidum causes? That is the syphilis. Okay, very good. Fluorescence microscope, it creates contrast using fluorescence, that the release of light by certain chemicals. Kaya nagkakaroon ng fluorescence. Nag-fluoresce yung uh, uh, yung mga nilalagay under the fluorescence microscope. Okay? So, electron microscope. We have two types, the TEM and the SEM. The transmission electron microscope forms images similar to that of a compound light microscope, except that the image is very much magnified. So, para siyang light microscope, but it offers more magnification. Okay? So, the TEM, it offers a magnification of 300,000 times. Okay, so mas mataas pa pala kasi sa sinasabi kong 100,000. Because that is, the magnification is 300,000 times. Okay, for the scanning electron microscope, okay, it used to view the surface of specimen. The resolution is around 20 nanometer, and it can magnify object to about 10,000 times. So, mas ma-create yung magnification ni scanning electron microscope as compared kay TEM. Okay? So, parts and functions of a compound microscope. Paulit-ulit, right? I believe that you had tackled this already, but we will still discuss it. Okay? Briefly. So, parts, of course, the eyepiece. So, the lens the viewer looks through to see the specimen. So, it usually contains 10 times or 15 times lens. But what we have in our laboratory are 10 times. Okay? So, we also have there the nose piece, a rotating turret that houses the objective lenses. So, the viewer spins the nose piece to select different objective lenses. So, other name for this is the revolving nose piece. Okay, so that one. When you want to move an objective or to change the objective, you should use the nose piece. Okay, yun yung gagamitin mo. Objective lenses, of course, one of the most important parts of the compound microscope, as they are the lenses closest to the specimen. So, these are the objective lenses. Stage clips, metal clips that hold the slide in place. Okay, we have it here, the stage clip. There. And the stage, this is the flat platform where the slide is placed. The diaphragm adjusts the amount of, wait, I will just adjust this one. Amount of light that reaches the specimen. So this one, that is the diaphragm, because we still have the base. Definition, okay? So the base, of course, this is the base. So the base supports the microscope and it's where the illuminator is located. So that is inside. So the arm, so the one that you handle, okay, the arm connects the body tube to the base of the microscope, okay, so that is the carrying handle. The condenser gathers and focuses light from the illuminator onto the specimen being viewed. So this one, that is the condenser. The coarse adjustment knob, that is the fine adjustment knob. When do you use your coarse adjustment knob, guys? On what objective? Sige nga, tignan niyo natin kung tama ang sagot niyo. On what objective do you use the coarse adjustment knob? The scanner and the LPO. For OIO and HPO, you use your fine adjustment knob. Okay? So, I hope that is clear. May nagre-raise pa dyan ng question. So, for some, they also use the coarse adjustment knob for the HPO. Okay? However, the working distance for the HPO is very low already. Okay? That's why using the coarse adjustment knob would poses a risk to your objective. Kaya, dapat ang ginagamit na sa HPO and OIO is the fine objective knob. Do you know that? Now you know. Okay? So, the body tube connects the eyepiece to the objective lens. Ooh, baliktad. How is this? Wait. Okay? So, the specimen or the slide. So, the specimen is the object being examined. Most specimens are mounted on slide, flat rectangles of clean glass. Okay, so the slide is the equipment, okay, that usually holds your sample being placed in the microscope. Okay, so the on and off switch, guys, what is not present here? Okay, what very important part of the microscope can you not see on this image? Ano? Sige nga. Let's see. Okay, so I will check first your output in your manual before I will answer my own question. Okay, but I hope you already have an idea on what is a very essential part of the microscope but was not included in this image. Okay, so light microscopy, so we will discuss them more in detail. So we have here light microscope types: bright field, phase contrast, fluorescence, polarizing microscope. For the light microscopy in the bright field, its principle is light is transmitted through the sample and absorbed by it. So take note that a specimen to be examined with bright field microscope must be sufficiently thin for light to pass through it. Okay? Dapat thin. It is the most commonly used for thin examination of histological slide. So it is the microscope used by most students and researchers. Okay, so the bright field, because aside from disadvantages, it is relatively cheaper as compared to the other type of microscope. So the optical system has three sets of lenses: the condenser, the objective, and the eyepiece, also known as the ocular lens. So when using a parfocal microscope, only the fine knob should be used for adjustment when changing magnification. Okay, so use only the fine adjustment knob. You are using the HPO and the OIO. Okay, so phase contrast microscopy, this is again recommended for urine sediment. It enhances the contrast between intercellular structures having slight differences in refractive index. That is excellent way to observe living cells or unstained specimen. That's why yan yung recommended sa mga unstained kagaya ng urine sediment. Okay? Kasi sabi ko din kanina, to observe living cells. Okay, fluorescence microscopy, it makes use of ability of certain molecule to fluoresce, okay, under UV light. That's why this is expensive because it utilizes UV light. It exposes a specimen to UV, okay, ultraviolet, violet, or blue light. Specimens usually stained with fluorochromes. Okay, so that fluorochromes are used to stain the intended samples or the intended objects to be viewed under fluorescence microscopy. So it shows a bright image of the image resulting from the fluorescent light emitted by the specimen. So they use a UV light, okay, and they use fluorochromes to stain the samples. So this is an example of an image captured from a fluorescence microscopy. Okay? So they fluoresce. Kumbaga nag-i-emit sila mismo ng light because what they use here are fluorochromes. So polarizing microscopy, it uses the fact that highly ordered molecules or arrays of molecules can rotate the angle of the plane of polarized light. The use of polarized light aids in the identification of crystals and lipids. Okay, crystals and lipids. In the dark field again, so it uses a dark background so for the demonstration of specific bacteria spirochetes, the Treponema pallidum, which is the causative agent for syphilis. Okay, so these are stained specimen. Okay, so this is a stained specimen under a bright field microscope. So these are collagen fibers which appear red and with thin elastic fibers and cell nuclei. So where are the collagen fibers here? Yung malalaki. Okay, the larger ones. The smaller ones, those are the elastic fiber and those are the nuclei. Okay. So this one, on the other hand, this is an image captured under a polarizing microscope. So the only collagen fibers are visible, and this exhibit intense yellow. Okay, so intense yellow or orange birefringence. So those are collagen fibers. Again, so for the electron microscope, it uses a beam of highly energetic electrons to examine objectives on a very high magnification. Okay, so the SEM, that is the magnification, that is 10,000 times. For the transmission, 300,000 times. Care of the microscope, last slide. So you carry the microscope with two hands. Okay, wag pabibo kasi pag nabasag mo ang microscope, are you willing to pay 70,000 pesos? Okay, so if you want a more expensive one, we also have the bright field microscope. If you have seen yung mga malaking dalawa, okay, so those are more expensive, 300,000 yata ang isa, no? Okay, so anong gusto mong basagin doon? Carrying a microscope with two hands and supporting the base with one hand. Okay, so I hope you can imagine this. Always hold the microscope in a vertical position. Dapat nakapatayo si microscope. Huwag mong pahigain. Huwag niyong pinapahiga. Okay? Clean optical surfaces only with a good quality lens. Tissue, we have the lens paper you asked from the assigned person in the laboratory. Wag tissue. Okay? And commercial lens cleanser. Do not use the 10 times, that is the LPO, and the 40 times, that is the HPO. Objective with oil because it is not intended for those objective. Yung oil, the oil that we have in our laboratory only applies to the oil objective. Yes, the oil objective. Oil immersion objective, the OIO. Always remove slides with the low power objective rays. Okay? Kailangan nakasagad sa pinakamataas na level, yung LPO. Okay? Before you remove the slide. Do not remove a slide when you are in your OIO or HPO because you can scratch the lens of the objective. Clean the oil immersion lens after use. Huwag niyong iwang dumikit doon yung oil niya. Okay? And store the microscope with the low power objective in position and the stage center. Okay? So, kapag i-store mo na, dapat yung objective na naka-center is the low power objective. And dapat nakasagad siya sa pinakamataas na level. Okay, so that's all for our lesson for the part 2, module 2 of our histology. Okay, so wala naman kayong choice kung hindi makinig sa akin, right? So I hope, guys, that you learned a lot of things in our discussion today. Okay, so if you have questions, feel free to message me. Okay, mag-chat lang kayo, text nyo ko, mag-chat na lang kayo. Or even you can post your comment. Okay, you can post your comment or you can chat me in the LMS. Okay, so I wish you all a good day and I hope, guys, that you are coping with our situation. Kasi ako din, hirap na hirap ako. Pero alam kong nahihirapan din kayo. But just pray, okay? Just pray. Dasal-dasal lang. Kaya natin to. Okay? Thank you and goodbye. See you again or hear me again. Hear me again in our next lecture.